Can I curse on
Alright.
this thing? Can I do that? What the fuck was that?
Well, I guess so, yeah.
I just can't. Caleb Williams, dude. What the
Yeah, the most Caleb Williams of Caleb Williams plays. Run back 30 yards and huck one up.
And Komet didn't even do anything to get open. What? Just a little nudge in the snow and just 2 steps over and the ball floats right in his hands. Unreal.
You got
Um,
defensive players watching the Megatron trying to see if it's what happens, and they're watching the other end. That's just great. I love it.
just crazy. I thought McVay probably needed a timeout there, but hey, guys, hey, for those of you who are here, I'm not sure who is or who isn't, but I guess we're gonna do this end of the game into overtime here for Sunday Night Football.
Why
As
not?
this thing's gonna drag on, we were just like, well, let's watch the end of the game here and we'll fire it up, but we just said forget it. Let's just go with overtime and let it ride. So here we are. Welcome in. It's our college football playoff championship game preview on Sharpen the Point. I know our attendance has been sporadic, but I'm sure you've been on like every day or so because you're you.
Yeah, I've been trying to take a siesta since the end of the season, but since the end of the main set of bowl games, since like New Year's Day. But yeah, we're gonna fire up some portal stuff in the next few weeks, but we still got one big game left tomorrow with a big boy slate. I'm gonna 20 max this thing and kind of play around with it a little bit, but it's a fun game, man. I don't really know how to break this one down. I mean, where are you leaning right out the gate, just off of
In
that
terms
game?
of just straight winner. So here's the deal, right? And I have to do this because otherwise there's no point in me having done it. But it was what, second week of October, first week of October, I sat on this show and said there are 5 teams that can win the title, and one of them is Miami. It was like
Hmm.
Indiana, Ohio State, Miami. I couldn't even begin to guess the other ones that I said, but um, and Miami immediately goes and loses to SMU and Louisville like right after back-to-back weeks. But I've been redeemed. Here we are. They're in the title game, so I'm thrilled about that. My biggest thoughts are we have seen Indiana absolutely drum an Alabama team we all knew sucked, that was limping to the finish line and was just waiting for someone to slaughter them, and Indiana was very clearly going to be the team to do that. So no surprise there. I get people are like reacting like that was like some crazy game, but it wasn't. So I'm just going to throw that out. So I mean, to be Indiana's recent games are the win over Ohio State, which is huge, right? That's a huge win over what you and I were saying was probably the best team in the country. And then they absolutely thumped Oregon. Um, I didn't like picking Oregon against Indiana, given them not having any running backs going into the game. But I was going on the "it's tough to beat a team twice" narrative that we had going. The only one I guess that had done it before was Ole Miss over Tulane, and the talent gap there was gigantic. I figured Dante Moore, Oregon, they're still talented. Beating them twice isn't easy. The first game was really close till it kind of got away in the end. That game fell off the wheels immediately, obviously, with a pick six. So I just don't think Indiana is the absolute wagon that they have been in the postseason. But I also don't think Miami can look past what is happening to their secondary as easily. That second half against Ole Miss, I mean, they were just dropping corners left and right, safeties ejected. It was I mean, they get like what 10 days to regroup between games here, but that's a lot to lose in the secondary to lead into a championship game against. I mean, look, I don't think Mendoza's that great, but it's hard to argue with what he's done. The stats aren't unbelievable. The stats aren't eye popping, but he completes every pass he throws.
Yeah, what he's got more touchdowns than incompletions in the playoff run so far, and
Hmm.
I have a hard time separating on the Mendoza front, separating the guy that we loved in that Cal USC game 3 years ago, right? And remembering that he was good, but it showed promise, but he's still never really put it together. Now, granted, this is a team that also in their season so far has played 3 games where they did not beat the opponent by more than 10 points. They have absolutely dominated people. And, I've got to work my team into this. So, my question that I had come up with that I debated whether I even wanted to send to you and let you know that I was going to ask you this, but I figured it was more fun to have it be
Just
organic.
drop it on my lap immediately. All right.
Yeah. All right. So, in the game last week, the Oregon game,
Yeah.
Indiana had 5 of their touchdowns scored by JMU players. 2 from Elijah Surratt, 2 from Kalon Black, and 1 from D'Angelo Pons.
Pons.
Yep. How far does that JMU team go if they have kept everybody with Signetti through this season? Granted, we made the playoff this year. And if we keep all of Aiden Fisher, Mikhail Kamara, D'Angelo Pons, Kalon Black, Elijah Surratt, how far does that team go in this playoff with that roster and Kurt Signetti?
See, the sad part is they probably just don't make the playoff.
It's the likely. Well, I don't know.
The likeliest answer is they just don't make the playoff.
The likely scenario is they somehow get in front of Tulane because they probably beat every team by 40. And they probably beat Louisville. They probably beat Louisville and are probably undefeated, so they probably get in over Tulane.
They still go to Oregon, probably lose.
That's what I'm saying, though. Like, it's a legitimate argument given that how much production.
I mean, obviously the playoff bracket changes because Indiana then is just garbage. So, I mean, it's hard to say, but I mean, it's probably a team that we just
they probably win. They could win one game.
To
they could probably win
someone they have no business losing to at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, that's what I'm saying, though. It's insane.
Like, it's the same route. Like, what would be that different? I mean, it's
possible. I'm just saying it would have been.
I enjoyed the narrative of Indiana has to be cheating and they're hacking into teams' practice videos and all this kind of stuff because they're like, we have no other way to explain it. All the players are just average, so it doesn't make any sense. And to be clear, if they are, I have no reason to believe they are, but if they are, I mean, we did just see 2 years ago, Michigan ran one of the most sophisticated direct cheating scandals or I'd say not even sophisticated, just blunt force trauma cheating scandals in the history of the sport. And the penalty was like, now y'all don't come back here now, y'all. So, yeah. I mean, NCAA basically said, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. So if they are, great. Good for them. I mean, it worked. You're in the championship. Great news.
So I completely agree with you on that Miami secondary stuff. I think that's the biggest advantage. The lines of scrimmage are fairly equal. Miami's much larger and athletic across the lines of scrimmage. Indiana more pesky, I would say, but does such a good job of tackling in that front seven. Whereas Miami's not very good at making tackles as the first guy. They tend to miss tackles at a much higher rate. Indiana's just a fundamentally better team as far as the fundamentals go. But certainly we know Miami is obviously a more talented roster overall, top to bottom. I just don't know that Miami's able to run the football. By proxy, I also think that the running backs on Indiana are not particularly talented. I still think that. I know Roman Hemby is a decent player, and I know that I just don't think Kalon Black's a particularly great player. Now, that's not to say that I'm going to make the all JMU lineup as best I can for the heck of it, because I think it's fun to include Black and or Surratt as my captain. As one ode to my roster. But I just don't know that Miami's going to be able to run the football. That's the biggest question mark to me, because I know this staff, and it is particularly adept at stopping the run. It's been that way for years. Also, Miami's defensive coordinator is the JMU defensive coordinator before the Indiana defensive coordinator was the defensive coordinator. Nice little tie in there. So we're taking a ship either way.
One thing I'll push on the Miami's inability to run the ball is they do have a large weight advantage. I mean, I understand it doesn't make a big difference, but I mean, we're talking, I think, 60 pounds on average by spot.
Right. Oh, I'd 100% agree with that. And I wonder, Oregon really thought they could get the edge, and they did with De'Aaron Hill a few times. That's why I think your guy Shamar Brown could be interesting in this spot as far as being able to get the edge. He's a little more elusive of a player. Played pretty well the last few games. Got more touches in that Ole Miss game than I really expected. But it's
I
a
just don't
very
know where to had him in
condensed.
that lineup. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very condensed offense. Like Mark Fletcher's not really catching the football. He's running it
No.
really well. I do like his over on that longest rush. I think it's 19 and a half. Indiana is susceptible to the big run, like a long run. It happened to him. I'll never forget the first game of the season, Colton Joseph going 75 to the house. First play of the year for Old Dominion was 75-yard touchdown run by their quarterback against Indiana. And I was like, ooh, this ain't the Indiana team of last year. It wasn't. It's a better version. We just didn't know it at the time. But I just, can you really trust Carson Beck in a game of this magnitude? Like him running for that touchdown was soul crushing to me. Him under a half
You
yard.
clearly didn't. You clearly didn't have Miami minus 3.5.
I did not bet that game actually. You know me, I've been fading Miami all year. It's been not great, but I haven't actually bet against Miami since I think since week 1. That
I
hurt
just
me
figured they
so
were going to do
much.
exactly what they did and run the ball all over Ole Miss. They just, I had hoped they would actually turn that into points, but they didn't. So I mean, they
Yeah.
won and it worked out. They covered, but boy, I had a whole lot on minus 3.5. I was thrilled, but yeah, I was also expecting the Carson Beck disaster play. He tried a couple times on that drive, but was very clutch on third down. I mean, third and sevens,
Yeah.
third and eights, he was picking them up to my surprise.
So the one big injury note we have on this game is Elijah Lofton is officially out, which is going to make Alex Bauman, former Tulane tight end, is going to be the starter there. They're pretty good at defending the tight end, so they don't use him. It's just such a super concentrated offense. Like the wide
He had
receiver
a chance
wise,
in that last drive against Ole Miss there, yeah.
yeah,
Probably like
it's
a
just
deep
he's
pass,
just
but that's
yeah.
not really sustainable. It's a one deep shot.
I mean, they're going to run out. It's basically going to be Fletcher or Brown at running back. You're looking at Marion Daniels, which Marion I still think has been great most of the year. I think he's outplayed Daniels in my opinion. Daniels playing okay lately. I prefer Marion personally, but you're really looking at a three wide set of Tony, Marion, and Daniels. And really, I would like to play Marion, Tony. I think Fletcher's fine. I think Brown's fine. Beck's fine, but kind of sucks. And then you're just looking at Indiana. I I was shocked, but going into the last game, I actually asked for some snap count stuff before that Oregon game because I was trying to find out because it looked to me like Omar Cooper wasn't on the field a ton by comparison to where he was early in the season when he was getting a lot more targets. And it seemed like they were running Becker and EJ Williams on the outside with Elijah Surratt in the slot. And then Omar Cooper would come in here and there. That seems to be the personnel grouping that they're playing Noah Kowski a good bit. And then Williams is on the field a lot more than you would think. He's not getting as much target share, but he's on the field a ton. I personally think the wide receivers are going to have a big game. I think Becker is the X factor in this game. He's been just an absolute dominant force on the outside, catching those deep passes, super impactful for them. And then, I'm going to like Surratt. So Mendoza's just been on a tear, and I think it's kind of hard to say that Mendoza doesn't stay on said tear. The man has 5 incompletions and 8 touchdowns in 2 playoff games. That's insane. That's just insane. But yeah, I mean, you have I think my sneaky touchdown scorer, because Signetti's ridiculous. I think it's Nowakowski. I think Nowakowski catches a touchdown in this game. Just weird feeling here. I don't know why.
Mine is CJ Daniels. He's done the whole thing all week at the media availability. He's talking about Kyron Lacey and obviously his former teammate at LSU who took his own life and some uh, situation there, and he's been trying to honor him all season, and he's been very vocal about trying to up his game for this one. He's played great. I think when they've been at home more often. Looking at the numbers you have there, looks about he had a 2 touchdown game both on the road and at home, and he had one in the opener too. Early season better than he's been lately, but I would expect him to maybe hit one here. That's just my player who's been talking in a way that I think may end up in a touchdown. Do you care at all? This is a home game for Miami. I don't.
I don't think it's a home game. I think it ends up being 60+% Indiana crowd. Indiana's got a
I mean I meant
yes, it's
home
in
game.
Hard Rock, but
Correct.
I really do think this is more of a, if anything, a neutral. As far as it, Indiana's just travels so well, and they've got so much money backing them that it just feels like I don't know that it makes that much of a difference as far as being in
I guess
on South
my
Beach.
bigger concern would almost be every distraction Miami normally has, quote unquote, at home. You know, if it's your girlfriend, the sister's brother, whatever, you are your sister's brother, I guess. But you know what I mean? Like all those things, everybody trying to get into the game, it's all happening right around you at the game, where versus like you're out of town, you're on your own, you're doing your thing. I'm curious to see what that looks like. I mean, it won't really probably make much of a difference, but for all I've heard about, like, well, they have the home crowd and all that kind of stuff. I'm with you. I think it's probably split. We saw what Indiana did in Atlanta, and I can't imagine that's going to be different for a championship game.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I think you end up seeing them just go crazy in this one, and that's where we end up with that. But let's throw one together. Let's throw a team together. Who do you want to captain? Have you built a team yet?
Look, dude, I got to be honest. I'm so terrible at showdown slates. I won one. I won one that LSU FSU opener. That was when I was covering FSU very closely
And you're
and
an LSU
was
fan. It kind of made a bit of a difference there.
a big LSU fan, made a big difference. I knew everybody on the field for both teams. I think that helped a lot.
Yeah.
I say I covered FSU very closely. I really didn't. I just had this podcast, but I knew the players very, very closely. I knew the both rosters well, so I had a chance there. But I have been throughout my entire life terrible at a showdown slate.
I have done pretty well at the championship showdown stuff, but I have built some stuff. But all right, so thinking about it, who do you like to go off? So you like CJ Daniels to have a good game, right?
My struggle here is things for these two teams are largely sorry, they're largely condensed between the two teams here. So I don't
Yeah.
feel like I have much of a like if this is Ole Miss, I could see myself taking shots on random guys. I don't see that with these two teams. I
Yeah.
feel like you've got to have the
So,
core group, and I don't know how they mathematically play out, but you kind of have to.
well, who do you like as far as how do you like the game to go? What's your prediction as far as score wise? If you had to pick a score, what do you think the final score of this game is?
It's going to largely depend on can Miami actually run the ball. If they can, then I would say it's probably low. If they
Okay.
can't, Indiana probably beats the crap out of them.
Okay, so what you would say
So
is you
those are
you
my
would
2
not
paths.
play.
I'd
Okay,
say Miami
for
runs the
you,
ball really well in ball controls, or they get
yeah.
thumped over the face.
All right, so you would say do not play Malachi Tony or CJ Daniels or Keelan Marion captains, because those would play into higher scoring Miami throws for a lot of yardage situations, right? In that situation. So would do you want to play a Miami plays a close game, is able to run the football score? We can do that. I got 20 of these, so I don't care. But I'll play that, or I could play Indiana route. Either way, we can play either one. Which one do you like better?
I mean, I'll let you drive the wheel, man. Nothing to add here.
Okay, okay, okay. I will play Indiana route. Let's play Indiana route for the fun of it. I like Charlie Becker as a cheaper captain play. This might end up being my single entry team, to be fair. Mendoza, you need with Becker in order for him to go there. I actually had a team with Surratt, but I'm going to want Tony here because they're going to have to play catch up. Let's go Daniels for you because you like Daniels in this spot.
You like Nowakowski?
I do like Nowakowski, but I'm not going to play him in this situation. I think I'm going to end up playing Surratt. And, of course, that leaves me 100 off. All right, forget your Daniels. I don't like your Daniels anymore. I'm going to go back to my thing. I'm going back to my roots. I'm going to play Tony and Surratt, or Tony and Marion. That gives me Cooper. I get Becker, Cooper, Surratt with Mendoza. I get Mendoza throwing for 5 touchdowns. Bing, bang, bosh. That's the way I'll play it. So, yeah, that's my initial. That's the one that was my original team that I have built. But I'm debating on that. But so, given your LSU background, we got to talk about this because we've been talking about this plenty. LSU's portal haul might be the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Like, it's insane. They say you can't build through the portal, or you shouldn't build through the portal, or consistency doesn't come through the portal, yada, yada, yada. The man went out and got Sam Levitt, who, shout out to him. I didn't think Sam Levitt was going to end up there. I really thought he was going to end up in South Beach. That didn't happen. Now Darian Mensa's there. I had jumped on the he can get Houston Longstreet situation. I was early to that and said that's where I would go. And he got both of them. Start with that. Start with that, man, because that's insane to be able to plop that money down and get both of them.
Yeah, I mean, so what I've heard is it's 5 million for Levitt and close to 2 for Longstreet. The total QB room being 7.5. Basically you're 5, 2, and then a half a mil for the Elon kid. It's is that Landon Clark? Do I have that right?
Yeah. It should be Landon.
So I mean, there's no secret they needed to revamp this quarterback room, right? Nussmeier was your leader there. He's gone. Behind him was Van Buren, and he was no offense to the kid. I mean, I don't think he really had a chance with the way the offense was called, but nothing that he showed was felt spectacular. So he was gone, and the guys behind there all just never showed anything or had a chance to. So, if you're Kiffin coming in there, you needed to find you a new starter and fill in from there, right? You had to rebuild an entire quarterback room. There was no quarterback of the current. There was no quarterback of the future. Landing both Levitt and Longstreet, to me, gives them the ability to say, okay, we've got our quarterback of today, Sam Levitt, in theory, right? And Longstreet, your quarterback of tomorrow. Now, Levitt with a foot issue is from what I can tell, not going to practice at all in the spring. That gives Longstreet all of those reps. We'll see how much Levitt can practice in the fall. Some are saying he'll be back and be just fine because this is the same issue that plenty of other quarterbacks have had and just fine. Others are saying it may linger. He's not the most mobile guy if it's going to bother him. I mean, he is mobile, but with the foot injury, he may not be as mobile. And so it becomes a situation where Longstreet could potentially be the starter there. It's just, what does that look like? I think it was a great turnaround, a great set of additions there for LSU. And yeah, I mean, to me, these moves were needed, but there were so many more in terms of rebuilding this roster that were desperately needed. I think their defense was great last year. They were kind of top heavy in reliance on what they had, but the portal additions they had on that side of the ball, Benefield from Boise State at safety. They got Delane, the younger brother Delane. They had Mansour Delane last year, who was the transfer from Virginia Tech, who's likely a first-round pick. I mean, best corner in the country. They get his brother out of Ohio State. I think he's a big piece for them in terms of a young guy in the secondary who could make an impact. I see you got Green there, the D tackle from Clemson. They needed help up the middle. They lost a couple of guys, but retained a handful of important ones. Also, the freshman class is insane. And I think it's the wide receiver room is probably, I mean, they needed to replace the whole offensive line. It sounds like they're in the process of doing that. They're trying to lock up Seaton from Colorado. They're trying to not let him get to Oregon. That sounds like the big play there. But I mean, I talked to you about this when the portal opened. They were going to be the most interesting team because Lane Kiffin didn't leave a playoff team to start a rebuild. Like this was going to be a roster overhaul, and that's what he did. He overhauled the roster, right? It's going to end up being close to 40 to 50 to 60 new players on this roster with the recruiting class plus the portal additions. They're certainly not done. They've got like 5 or 6 guys they still want. D end out of Missouri, if he could come down on price, I think he's looking for like 4 million or something on his own. And it's like, if you're not going there for Cam Coleman, sorry, we're not going there for you. But they have a number on the table, and if he takes it, he takes it. But the overhaul of the roster here is gigantic, and the wide receiver room is certainly, I think, the most interesting. For me, this is easily a top 10, I'd say probably talented roster by the time they hit the field next year. I think they've got 2 of the 5 best coordinators in the sport. I'm really excited to see an offense coordinated by Charlie Wise Jr., given what I've seen the last 3 years at LSU. And I think Blake Baker's phenomenal. So I certainly think LSU's in my early season championship level teams. It's just how quickly does a brand new overhaul transfer portal roster come together? I'm assuming with 2 great coordinators fairly quickly, right? The play calling will be great. They start off with Clemson, which is an interesting test, and then they get a lighter get week 2, and then they jump in SEC play, and it's Ole Miss pretty quickly, and then they go from there. So to me, I don't think this is the best team in the country. I don't think they'll enter preseason number 1. I think they'll probably end up in that 4 to 7 preseason ranking team. For me, the number 1 team heading into next year is going to be Texas.
Yeah,
Again.
yeah, I agree with that. Just hitting on this LSU stuff. Exciting transfer of Mac Mulhern over here from Florida, the number 3,000 player in the portal, the long snapper.
They took basically the Florida special teams unit and then grabbed their kicker from Arkansas. I'm surprised they didn't take the Florida kicker. I think he was too young and inexperienced, is my guess.
Yeah. So Houston Longstreet, for anybody who didn't get to see the limited amount of snaps he had at USC, he's very Trinidad Chambliss light. Like he's very much so similar build, similar stature, similar capability on escapability. He's just young and very good. And everybody knows he was good already. So that one, I love that move. I wouldn't be shocked if this ended up being an Austin Simmons Trinidad Chambliss situation, especially if Levis gets hurt. Yes, you're paying him $5 million. That does not mean that you're not going to play Longstreet if he ends up just absolutely beating him.
They're going to play to win football games. Like I said, Lane Kiffin didn't leave a playoff team to mail in a season. They're going to go for championships every year he's here.
Yeah, and Levitt was the best quarterback in the portal. I would agree with that statement. I think he didn't have weapons around him at Arizona State. He had
if
one.
You don't count Damon Williams entering the portal, yes.
Yes. Damon Williams would have been the best option in the portal. Wide receiver wise, I am still angry at the fact that people think that Jace Brown and Eugene Wilson and Winston Watkins and Trey Brown are all better than Jackson Harris. Jackson Harris is your wide receiver 1 in this offense. That is my opinion, but I believe in that full-heartedly. The kid absolutely had a monster season. Yes, it was at Hawaii, but it was a monster season. He was so good. So he is the alpha number 1 for me. Jace Brown's going to be great opposite of him. And then Eugene Wilson in the slot mixing in with Winston Watkins, because we know that Eugene Wilson cannot and will not stay healthy. That safety pairing of Delane and Benefield is nutty.
Well, and they paid to keep Spears as well, who was great last season.
I mean, both of those two,
and they kept Cooley from NC State as well. The guy who transferred last year from NC State, Cooley's back as well. So they have 4 very legit safeties on this team.
And the additions they've done over the last week along the offensive line have been really, really strong, in my opinion. Aluba, I really loved that pickup personally Thought that
That
was
was
a
the biggest
very
one, I
good
think, at this
addition.
point.
Yeah, I really liked that addition. I'm not a Malik LZ guy. I don't love what they did with the backfield. I really would have liked getting a different guy, but Dylan Jones, his stock took a major dip because of how poor Wisconsin was, but he is super talented. So him being there, bringing back Caden Durham, bringing back Harlem Berry, that's fine. I mean, it's underwhelming considering we had hoped that he would bring in Keywan Lacey,
Well,
but
the deal there was that reportedly, and I've been told it's so, and then I don't know it beyond one person, but I've seen others reporting the same things. Maybe we all have the same one person, but I doubt it. But that the idea, if Ole Miss loses to Georgia, Lacey and Chambliss are both currently at LSU, and Chambliss is having LSU fight his legal battle as opposed to Ole Miss.
yeah, so that makes sense. But I mean, I would say Dylan Jones is an underrated addition that I think probably ends up being the number one back for this team. And then the guy that we're waiting on that I think makes a massive, massive difference has a very similar situation to Jamond Williams is what Prince Will Umalion.
Yeah, so I think it's Uman Mielen, but the difference
Yeah.
there being that his contract does include a buyout. What I've heard there is LSU is likely uh, paying that buyout, and it's like 300,000 or 275,000, I think, and then signing him to a deal of close to 2 million, I think is what I've heard. That he's requested to enter the portal, but hasn't officially. The portal technically closed Friday, but I think it was Pete Nakos at On Three who had said that you have until Friday at midnight to request to enter the portal. The school has 48 business
Business hours.
hours, which
It's
doesn't make sense to me.
Tuesday.
It would
It's
be
end of day Tuesday.
it would be 2 business days, not 48 business hours. 48 business hours would be like 6 business days. It
Yeah,
wouldn't make any
it's
sense.
2 business days, so he
Um,
has till Tuesday at end of day for it to be officially the paperwork filed.
Correct. Well, technically Monday is a holiday too, so it'd be Wednesday end of day.
No, even better.
So yeah, that one sounds like it's a done deal at this point, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's more names who pop into the portal here over the next couple days from reading between the lines of these reporters. Oh, I
Yeah.
totally missed that the Rams had won. But yeah, I mean, I love what LSU's done. Right, they've overhauled the roster. It's just how quickly does it come together. Texas, on the other hand, like I mentioned, I think is my favorite team to be number one. I mean, obviously they come off of last season as preseason number one, and um, don't really lose anything that I think would keep voters from making them think they're number one. They add Cam Coleman, who I've been telling anyone who will listen over the last 2 weeks, if I die in mysterious circumstances over that window, and that my family had a chance to sue whoever had killed me, be it ice or a work related injury or something, sue and get the money and use it for Cam Coleman in an LSU uniform. It's what I need. It's what I want. You can give my son the life insurance policy, but please God, get the money to Cam Coleman. Um, but I mean, I love the guy. He's phenomenal. You pair him there. Um, is it Wingo, right?
Yep.
At Texas, and I think you've probably got the best receiver pairing in the country, just in terms of raw talent as a player. I know everyone's going to fall back in love with Arch Manning. He played the great bowl game. He got better there towards the end of the season, which, like, duh. I mean, he looked like the pressure in the spot got to him early in the year, which, again, duh. He opened up at the horseshoe, looked like garbage, and then I think from there, just the pressure of, like, I can't blow this, started to build. And then once it felt like they were out of it, it was like, oh, suddenly he's really good. You and I had been talking about the effort they made to steal Jaden Baugh from running back for the running back from Florida, which would have been a huge get. Couldn't do it. So then they went and stole Hollywood Smothers, who had already committed to Alabama. So took him from Alabama. He was transferring already from NC State. He'd committed there, and they pulled him in. Also, like you mentioned, Raleek Brown there on the screen, but I feel like every offensive tackle that hit the portal ended up going to Texas. Offensive line is going to be like 5 offensive tackles, and they had already recruited the offensive line well beforehand. I was surprised when they said they were good without go down there. Who is an LSU player that transferred? Is it a punter?
Defensive lineman Zion Williams.
Oh, yeah, okay. Um, the I've had enough Zion Williams in my life.
There's
I don't need
only
another one.
one. There's only room for one Zion Williams in this state.
But yeah, I think Texas is an easy choice to be a preseason number one, and second place for me being Oregon. And of course, I think that probably some of that's going to have to do with where Seton chooses. If Seton chooses LSU, I think I probably nudge LSU a little higher. If he chooses Oregon, probably nudge Oregon a little bit higher. But they're not going to jump Texas. It's just that's just the way the voting goes. Texas will be one. I think Oregon will be in two or three, and I'm sure Ohio State's going to be in that same window as well.
Oh, Ohio State's going to be probably 2 or 3. I think Texas probably starts the year as number 1, and it's hard to disagree with it. Arch, I did feel like really settled in towards the end of the season, played much better, continued to improve and show improvement throughout the year. And the fact of the matter is that we've been saying this, we were early adopters to this, right? Is Cam Coleman is closer to Jeremiah Smith than he is the rest of the wide receivers in college football. So the gap between Jeremiah Smith, who everybody says is number 1 wide receiver in all of college football, and he rightfully is, the gap between him and Cam Coleman is a lot tighter than the gap between Cam Coleman and the field. Cam Coleman is insanely good, and he'll bail out. I think the report I saw recently was 3 to 3.5 million is what Texas has paid, and their roster is currently believed to end up costing over 40 million because they're going all in because it's going to be the last year for Arch. So you're looking at a all in Texas on a team that needed an offensive line, that went out and bought an offensive line. And I think Raleek Brown is a fun weapon. There was a reason that they allowed their entire running back room to go. It's gone. And similarly, there's a reason they told Parker Livingstone, bye-bye, you're good. They told Arch Manning's roommate, you can go. That's where we're at with this roster and how deep it's gotten. That's insane. Like DeAndre Moore, gone. They had their starting trio of wide receivers is going to be Cam Coleman, Ryan Wingo, and Emmett Mosley. That's nutty good. Now the depth is going to be a bunch of 5-star freshmen and sophomores and things like that. That's going to be good. Do I love their running back core? I think it's good. I think it's great complementary pieces. Raleek Brown with Smothers. They're both very versatile, very good pass catchers, good runners of the football, but not great. If Jaden Ball was that number 1, it might be the single greatest offense I've ever seen assembled. If it was Jaden Ball. I don't know that it would be very different than the Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson situation with Wingo, Mosley, Coleman, because Terrence Ferguson, meh, like he was fine. Thaddeus Moss, fine. But Jaden Ball at running back would be such a difference maker compared to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Like that would rival that for me as far as raw talent on the field.
Well, the difference is going to be the output, right? I mean, I don't think anyone knew that LSU roster was that until the output of scoring like literally 35 in every game. But yeah, I mean it would certainly be that.
Yeah.
Or the expectation would be to be that.
All right, so looking at the quarterbacks that were in the portal, did anything
Indiana probably also in terms of portal teams?
Yeah, did anything stand out to you as far as where people ended up? I thought Hoover was a good get for Indiana. He's going to need to take care of the football, but if there's a team, we would have said that about Mendoza, right? Mendoza had a terrible time taking care of the football. So, what better place for a guy to land at than Indiana in that sense? I thought Raiola was a very smart decision. And apparently he knew that Dante Moore was going to stay, and that's why he chose there. I think he needs a year to get his body back together. A lot of these were very predictable for us,
I think the most interesting things in the portal for me, Tennessee striking out was being the team that left without the game of musical chairs, they were left was empty. Certainly interesting because Kentucky was quick to jump, right? They were the initial Sam Levitt team. Kentucky was very aggressive in terms of teams that were aggressive and
Yeah.
improving the roster. You got Minchie there on the screen. They landed Nick Anderson. They pulled in a bunch of offensive linemen. They were aggressive after Caden Durham. LSU ended up pulling him back, but Will Stein going for it. So whatever Kentucky told him to lure him there, they certainly made the swing. But I
Here's
think
your
that was
boy
very
Croman
interesting.
Hulk.
Yeah, I look that USF quarterback room is just it's currently SEC rejects. But the interesting one to me is Tennessee first, right? They got a
Mhm.
Levitt visit. Kiffin flew there and basically just took them. It felt like then the pivot was going to be Longstreet, and again, Kiffin just took them. Miami was kind of also in the same boat, but you knew good and well Miami wasn't going to let that happen. My
Yeah.
friends and I were talking in our group chat where that was going to go, and I said, "Well, my first guess is going to be Mensa." And they're like, "Well, he's on a deal with Duke." I said, "That's never stopped Miami before." For multiple reasons. One, Mensa's among the best quarterbacks that would or could be available given the program they'd be coming from. And two, I mean, Mario loves just sticking it to Manny Diaz when he gets a chance, right? I mean, that's just kind of the two of them got the whole thing going there. I did enjoy quickly the broadcast coverage of Miami beating Ole Miss and was, you know, finally a guy coaching Miami who's from Miami, of Miami, coached at Miami, is Miami. And I was like, the coach before was the same thing, right? That's the last guy was also that. And it worked out so unspectacular, but it's okay. I mean, whatever. Um, no, I mean, in terms of quarterbacks, I mean, Mestermaker obviously makes the move we kind of expected. Sorsby was kind of always expected at Texas Tech because they made the first move to bring the girlfriend over, right? That was the
Yep.
one of the reported early reasons there. Byron Brown following Golish to Auburn was expected. I was at Longstreet next on the list. Hoover, you talked about. Raiola was interesting, just to see his fall. Rocco Beck following. Matt Campbell was interesting. Lagway was doing this like weird dance where like, please God, everyone spare me from Baylor. Please God, I don't want to be at Baylor. Please God, someone save me. And then finally he was like, well, shit, I guess I got to go back to Baylor. I mean, I'm sure he probably called Tennessee like 8,000 times, like, please take me. Deuce Knight, I'm curious what that looks like. I really think if Ole Miss has to start him week one, because Chambliss loses this, which feels unlikely. Ole Miss feels really confident in it. But if Deuce Knight has to start week one, I could see Ole Miss having a tougher season if they keep Chambliss. Obviously, I think they're going to be among the top 10 teams in the country regardless. Simmons, I don't care about. I mean, the rest of these are kind of whatever. Cutter Boley was
Yeah.
fine. I don't really care about him at Arizona State, though.
So remember, Aiden Childs. This one's interesting to me for one thing with Chip Kelly being the offensive coordinator at Northwestern now. And I thought it was very interesting. I originally predicted Raiola going to Louisville, but it was interesting that they went straight in. Remember, Lincoln Kienholz was pushing Julian Sand for that job. And then Braum went out, and that was like one of the first moves made was Kienholz to Louisville. So they were all in on that. I thought that Kentucky and Will Stein was fabulous job getting Minchie and pulling him from Nebraska. Nebraska got left out in this thing too. Tennessee and Nebraska are just hung out to dry.
Which is funny because they're I think perfect examples of teams that don't quite know how the game is played in today's world, right? It feels like you simply can't strike out.
Yeah.
Like you can only like I think Miami showed this go around. You can only strike out if you're not willing to play the game because Miami struck out as well. I mean, they had Levitt on campus. Obviously, he commits to LSU. It's no secret that Miami's play appears to be just get the most veteran quarterback you can. They don't want to teach the quarterback. They want him to show up with the experience. Cam Ward, uh, Carson Beck. That's their mold. So I was looking for a person who played. I think Navarro
To Tennessee would be fun.
Well, Tennessee did just get Staub, right? Ricky
Rusty.
Staub.
Oh no, not Martin Luther Staub.
Yeah, I mean, I think Navarro is easily a better player. I don't. I mean, maybe they just took Staub as like a just get somebody, so we have somebody.
This is
Um,
my underrated one of the whole thing. TCU with Jaden Craig. I love that move. And I wonder now, does Cooper Barkate consider moving now that Duke lost Mensa? Because Barkate was re-upped with Duke. That could be interesting at this point. I think there's a lot of teams that really wish they had made a move that now aren't going to be able to make that move. I love what Kentucky did going to get CJ Baxter. We all know my
one
affinity for CJ Baxter,
one
though.
question on quarterback for you here too. Were you surprised before we go to running back what Florida did? Right, it seemed like they pretty quickly went to Philo, and then
No.
just like they haven't really been super active in the portal. They haven't really been. Um, I mean, it just seemed like they just spent the whole time like, can I just cling to Jaden Baugh and we'll figure out the rest from there.
Well, they also clung to Dallas Wilson. Dallas Wilson had agreed to a deal to go to Oregon, which would have been nutty. He had agreed to a deal to Oregon, and Florida retained him. So they retained their number one wide receiver, their number one running back, and went out and got Philo. Philo's coming with Buster Faulkner. Apparently, Buster Faulkner really put in a good word for him because he was going to be the starter at Georgia Tech. Haynes King's gone. I don't know who's going to start at Georgia Tech at this point.
They'll just grab a running back and say, "Now you run the ball straight ahead."
I guess so. I guess so. That's kind of where we're at this point. I don't know what Virginia's doing. Virginia's going to have a guy who has to transfer because they got like 6 quarterbacks at this point that they've all picked up in the portal. Yeah. Running back wise, was there anybody that stood out to you? I thought Justice Haynes' move was very interesting. Apparently, Michigan just did not want to pay him. And so they were just like, well, we're just going to ride with Jordan Marshall now that he played so well to finish
Haynes
the
is
season
Haynes is
out.
from near Atlanta, right? It's Roswell. So
Yeah.
I mean, I think the move to Georgia Tech makes sense. Um, Weisner to Florida State's odd. I mean, I thought he was probably better than going there, but I don't know. He kind of just
How
did.
about their quarterback situation? I could have sworn that Castellanos had another year, but I guess he didn't and went to the NFL. And then Ashton Daniels was the call up. I don't know about that one.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what I don't know where they go is my issue. They made it abundantly clear that well, they tried to hide it, I guess, but the ESPN reporting obviously linking them to the Lane Kiffin sweepstakes and not really making it past the first round. Um, like they want to fire Norvell. They just don't have the money to do it.
Yeah.
And it's not they don't have the money to do it. It's they don't have the money to do it and build a competitive roster. So it just becomes a question of when do they pull the trigger? And so then how do you manage to pull people in to do that? I think the one interesting thing in the running back market is it didn't feel like a lot of them really moved.
No.
And I wonder how much of it is you saw last year's running back transfer class explode spectacularly. Mekhi Hughes was the top. The Tulane transfer went to Oregon. He back in the you just had him on the screen there, hit the portal again, ended up at Houston
Back home.
after never touching the ball at Oregon. Was our guy from Cal, Jay Knott.
God, he was bad.
Never saw the field at Oklahoma. Was also that giant pickup out of the portal for Oklahoma. Never saw the field. So I mean, it just feels like here the market. I think a lot of these teams adding the quote unquote GM position are mirroring their roster to kind of NFL salary allocations, and I don't think running backs are getting paid. So I don't think many of them are moving because
Yeah.
there's not the market for it.
This
Yeah,
is the one that
Dylan Edwards and
dropped
CJ
yesterday.
Baxter are weird that low in the rankings.
I agree with that. Like I said, I thought Baxter to Kentucky was underrated. Thought it was a great signing for them, and I was shocked at how long Dylan Edwards sat in the portal. Now, him going to Kansas was weird as well because he grew up a Kansas State fan. So I don't quite understand that one. He was originally committed there. I am surprised by that staying there. Jackson remains there. He's going to be their starter. I thought Bryson Washington was a smart pickup for Auburn in a sense. Muhammad moving on was weird to me. I expected him to stay at Washington. I do like what Cal's building now with their
Did
young core.
didn't Cal take like a coordinator? Or, like, did they have a new coach or?
Yes, they have a new coach. They have
Yeah, so they got the DC
Tosh Lupoy. Tosh
from
Lupoy
Oregon.
from Oregon.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah, and they kept Sagapolatele. So that was a big keep. I don't know how I just got that name perfectly great at this point. I
proud
don't
of you.
know how. Yeah, Sagapolatele I have locked in because I was making fun of my family on Christmas Eve.
It's okay. I've
Trying
spent
saying all the
you went for
names.
a man me yelling, and I've been saying it in my head. If I hopefully I got it right. I've been
I
looking at it and like repeating saying it over and over again. So
I love this move for Cam Cook to go back to the P4 with West Virginia and Rich Rod. I like what Rich Rod's done, pairing Cam Cook with Michael Hawkins, getting all that mobility. That has all of the makings of Steve Slayton and Pat White reincarnate. I do like that move. Otherwise, it's just an underwhelming class. I really think it's a very, very underwhelming class. And I would not underrate, though, that this kid, Caleb Hawkins, is insane. Just absolutely insane if you haven't seen it. As I would highly suggest seeing him. I'm going to talk about this guy in a minute. I actually want to break down that team because I think that's one of the winners of the portal. Nick Marsh, I think, was a very astute pickup for he's the discount Cam Coleman as far as I'm concerned in the wide receiver market. There was 3 top guys to me. It was Marsh, Miller, and Coleman. Marsh was right up there with Miller and Coleman, just slightly behind. I thought Marsh was a great option to bring in. They'll keep Becker. So their starting wide receiver sets, I believe, are going to be Cooper, Becker, and Marsh. And they just basically replace Surratt with Marsh, which is a very smart move. I had zero clue that Eric Singleton still had eligibility left, but him going to Florida is interesting as a pairing with Dallas Wilson. Thought that was smart. I have no idea why the hell Isaiah Horton was leaving Alabama. Apparently, A&M really needed a wide receiver, so they went in their bag. I mean,
but
Ian
speaking of teams,
Strong,
I was surprised with the lack of a haul that A&M brought in.
they didn't bring in anything.
Yeah, they took a lot of swings. It just feels like Texas Tech or Texas outbid them on a lot of the players they wanted.
Yeah, and
Which
then
is
Michigan made
surprising when
some
they're just
moves.
spilling Texas money.
Yeah. Well, who's playing? Oh, we know who's playing quarterback at Vandy. It's the freshman. The freshman's going to play it. Yeah, Caden Lee's now in the portal. Ole Miss bringing in some dumpster fire wide receivers too. Daryl Gill, he's had issues. I think they brought in both Syracuse guys. I think it was Jonte Cook and Daryl Gill.
Yeah, they have both Syracuse guys.
Yeah, just a very interesting set of players. I'm excited for this young gentleman, Jeremiah Coger, going to Auburn. I think he ends up playing extremely well. I did love that move. Personally, I like the Perry Thompson to Minnesota thing. I think that's going to work out pretty good. You love Danny Scudero. I don't know how much he's going to fit in with
I don't care anymore.
that situation. But yeah. All right. I got 2 teams that I wanted to talk about that we did not mention. Number 1, Texas Tech. We all knew
Yeah.
Sorsby thing was going to happen. I legitimately thought that if Texas Tech had landed Coy Parrish from Minnesota, which I thought they had him, and then somehow Oregon stole him.
The top safety.
Yes. If they had landed Coy Parrish, I would have told you that Texas Tech's defense next year was better than the defense because the combination of Romaine, Trick, Mateen over here, like Trey White, they just added a plethora of insane defensive talent on that back end, on the front side of all those linemen. And then I was like, okay, look at all these linemen. And then all they needed was one nasty safety in Coy Parrish for this thing to just all come together. And they ended up not being able to seal the deal. And it was so frustrating.
And it's still gonna.
because
I mean, they're still gonna be built so strong up front. They're gonna be great. I mean, this is gonna be another one of those teams that's gonna be sitting in the top 4 to 8 probably preseason.
I would say so. Now they did lose a lot of their receiving core. You lose Coy Eakin, you lose Caleb Douglas. I
Yeah,
think
but
they
I mean,
used
I don't.
Reggie Virgil.
In terms of how the voting's gonna go, the narrative is just gonna be the
They
offense
got
was bad
money and they
last year.
win.
They got Sorsby.
Well, and remember they get Quentin Joyner back from who was their prized portal possession from last year, who missed the entire season with the ACL, and now they have Quentin Joyner and Washington and Dickey all there. So they have 3 running backs now on that roster. And then went out and I think Malcolm Simmons is an underrated player. We liked him early days at Auburn with
Yeah.
Cam Coleman as like a sidekick. I think he ends up being a great piece for them. And the combination of that with, you bring in some Dante Lees and Jalen Jones, Kenny Johnson. I think those are all viable players. So they have plenty good enough of an offense to be able to run the football. Brendan Sorsby not exactly the best passer of the football. They made a big run at Cam Coleman. If they could have sealed that deal, that would have been super impressive. Like same thing with the Coy Parrish thing. You bring in one of those two, and it's impressive. The other team that I want to hit on, we mentioned it for a second. I think Dillingham has quite literally replaced and built up an awesome offense. Yes, he lost Jordan Tyson. Yes, he lost Sam Levitt. Yes, he loses Raleek Brown. Yes, Kanye Udo's in the portal. I think Cutter Boley is discount Sam Levitt.
Could be better. I mean,
He is mobile, and I love the way he throws the football. He's 6'5". I love this kid. I would have kept him at Kentucky personally. I really liked his game, though. I played a ton of him late in the year and enjoyed watching him. And the combination for me, I was really hoping LSU would go get one of these guys, but Omarion Miller is an underrated player with what he was able to do with how terrible that Colorado passing attack was this year. He is so good. So adding him into that Tyson role, and then Reed Harris is underrated. He was one of the better wide receivers at Boston College, was able to do some real good things with Dylan Lonergan there. I really like his game too. So pairing those two up is just awesome. And then I was shocked that Raiden Vines Bright left Washington. Washington must not have money or they're paying it all to Demond Williams, because Vines Bright was really good for them. They lost Audric Harris off that roster. Vines Bright was their best young wide receiver. They don't have Denzel Boston anymore. Like, I don't know what's going on there. I thought this was a good get for this team. Little shocked that they went out and got Mikey Keene, because why even bother? But I'm pretty happy with what they were able to bring in as a haul from that for Dillingham to play with. He has plenty of toys overall in this one, so I think it's shaping up and everything looks pretty fun. And I'm excited now that we don't have to worry about that summer portal and things kind of getting a little hairy. We should kind of know everything over the next few weeks as far as what these rosters look like in this one.
yeah, excited to see how it all plays out. I do have to dip here, but I think we pretty much covered everything at this point.
Yeah. So you got Indiana tomorrow? I got Indiana. I'm rooting for Indiana. I'm picking.
I mean, I just got to take Miami because I
That's
said
your
it
team.
2 months ago. Yeah, 3 months ago.
Yeah. So enjoy the game tomorrow, and I will be live at 2 hours before the game tomorrow, just building teams. So I'll be live. I took the day off from work because why wouldn't you? It's a national title game. So we'll see you then. We'll see you tomorrow. We appreciate Brian for his time and his insight, especially with LSU. Knows just as much, if not more than any.